Okay, I think we are ready to begin. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll begin the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are pleased to recognize numerous outstanding students, state sports champions from Central, West, and South High Schools, and Mason Ridge students for recognition at the Wordmaster Challenge. First, I would like to invite Corey Johnson, our Activities and Athletics Director, to introduce Parkway's state sports champions.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Education and Dr. Schneider, it's my honor and privilege tonight to honor and introduce our state champions, both from our winter and from our spring seasons. So tonight we'll be recognizing state champions from the South High Girls Swim Team, South Girls Track Team, West High Scholar Bowl Team, Central High Boys Track Team, and Central High Girls Swim Team. And now for our state champions. First up, from South High, head coach Blakely Mathis and state champion Alexis Cook. Alexis is a two-time state champion. This year she won the 100-yard backstroke and the 500 free for the second year in a row. Her 100 backstroke time was 54.2, and her 500-meter free was a blistering 4 minutes and 53.2 seconds. Alexis has a GPA of 4.2, and she will be attending Mizzou to swim in the fall. And she was also the St. Louis Post-Dispatch Scholar Athlete and Female All-Metro Swimmer of the Year. So Alexis has had an outstanding high school swim career, and she's probably one of the swimmers that we will see in the Olympics in 2028, I'm sorry. Our next athlete, state champion from South High, head coach Bob Klebold, and his senior track athlete, Mia Balea, is a senior, and she won 4 state medals, state championships this year. Mia has really grown and built, and for her to continue is very courageous. She started off her sophomore year, I think, placing 3rd, and then 2nd, and then this year she brought home four gold medals. So she's been runner-up in these events prior to. She maintains a 3.5 overall GPA, and one of the most exciting things at the state meet was in her final race, the ovation that she received from about 5,000 or 6,000 people. It was miraculous that they really recognized the effort that she put in when she crossed the finish line of her final race. She has a 3.5 GPA, and she will be attending Mizzou this fall. I'm sorry, she will be attending SIUE this fall. Next, if our West High Scholar Bowl team, if Coach Patrick Troy and Coach Sarah Johnson can come up along with the team members, Nick Hillman, Jackson Sterling, and Soham Ray. Congratulations. Congratulations. Yes, go through and take them. Congratulations. Congratulations. Yeah. First of all, Scholar Bowl, if you aren't familiar, it's kind of like Jeopardy on steroids. There's 2 teams going against each other. They have a list of topics ranging from literature to a vast range of topics. Our team this year, West top Zoom Walk West in the championship, 380 to 340. Our team was undefeated this season on the way to their state championship, and our team also recently competed at the Pace Nationals in Chicago, where Soham was named an all-star competitor. Not to be expected, I guess. This team has an overall GPA of 4.5, and again, this is an outstanding team. Now on to Central High. Central High boys track, if head coach Warren can come up, and also assistant coach Frank, and then our state champion, Lucas Amador. Congratulations, coach. This year, Lucas was the Class 4 state champion in the 800 meters, running a blazing time of 1 minute and 55.7 seconds. He also paced his team to a second place overall finish for the second year in a row. Lucas's final, coach, correct me, about 80 meters of the race was just unbelievable. He really showed just a lot of heart and compassion with the way he ran. One of the unique things about the state meet this year was due to weather, they had to run all their events in one day instead of normally it's 2 days. So Lucas did all this, running all of his races, like I said, in one day, and had the weather as an obstacle. So it really is a testament to the effort that Lucas put in. We're very proud of him. And Lucas also maintains, which I'm sure his parents are very proud of, a 3.7 GPA. Congratulations, Lucas. And last but not least, Central High girls swim and dive team, the Class 1 state champions. So if head coach Sedell and assistant coach Norman Rich could come up, along with our swimmers that are here tonight, Natalie Burns, Victoria Nohoff, Lola O'Brien, and Layla Thurston are here to be honored with the team. Congratulations, coach. Congratulations, coach. The unique and special side note about this team, which just really rarely happens, the team actually won the overall state championship without a first place finish. So what that says is coach really had a team that had great depth, and she did a lot of high level coaching to get points in places in every single event. So that led our team and paced us. We beat the second place team by 26 points. And again, to do that without a first place finish is really miraculous. This team basically scored in every event. And coach mentioned, she let us know that this was the goal for these young ladies. They have had to kind of watch their counterparts. They've had to watch the boys win a few state champions, but these girls held up their end of the bargain and they won theirs also. So we're very proud of them. And then lastly, again, this team, a state championship team, has a GPA of 3.9 for all of the members on the swim team. So lastly, I would like to thank and recognize all of the parents of our state champions. We greatly appreciate you and everything you do to support our coaches and your student athletes. We couldn't have the success that we have without you. It's greatly appreciated, your time and all the encouragement that you do throughout the year. And in closing, we're not just proud of our state champions and for their accomplishments, their athletic accomplishments, but we're also proud of their leadership, their academics, as we mentioned, their GPAs, and their perseverance. And good luck to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey. Next, please welcome Molly Glazer, our gifted program lead, to introduce the Wordmaster Challenge winners.
Hello. Good evening, President Todd, Superintendent Schneider, and members of the board. As the Gifted Education Program Leader, I am incredibly proud to introduce a group of students from Mason Ridge Elementary who completed and dominated the World Master Challenge this year. The national competition tests advanced vocabulary and critical thinking, and our students competed in the Gold Division, the highest and most difficult level available. Through their hard work and under the exceptional coaching of Mosaics teacher Abby Webb, who's right over there, these students achieved historic results. Several earned perfect scores on the final test, a few achieved by fewer than 100 students nationwide. Even more impressive, 8 of our students placed in the top 15 in the United States for the entire school year, including 2 who tied for first place. We are so proud of their dedication. As I call each student up one by one, please step forward and to be recognized by the Board of Education. First, I actually would like to introduce Abby Webb, who is our Mosaics teacher at Mason. All right. First student is Charlotte Childress. Oh, she's not here. Okay. Morgan Kahn, Olivia Ling, Tate McDonald. Tate, do you want to come on up? All right, right over here. Nora Marr. Davis Pullman. Jack Rauder. Ben Ruthford. Jackie Schull. Stella Self. Charlie Siebert. Lillian Smith. Brooks Stratman. Audrey Zhao. And Sophie Zillistra. Board and Superintendent, please welcome me one final round of applause for our National World Master Champions. Thank you.
Congratulations again to all of our students who are honored here tonight. We're going to take a brief recess and we'll resume the meeting shortly. We are ready to resume, if everyone else is ready to resume. Next up on our agenda is 7.0, that's additions, corrections, and/or modifications. Those include the following. 7.01, addition of agenda item 11.45, approval of renewal of Benchmark Express subscription. 7.02, addition of agenda item 11.46, approval of renewal of Brain Pop subscription. And 7.03, addendum to agenda item 11.07, approval of personnel items. Next up is 8.0, public comments. It is during this time we provide an opportunity for citizen comments in an effort to maintain an open and respectful dialogue with our community. The public comment session is not the appropriate forum for addressing individually identifiable student and/or personnel matters. Therefore, due to privacy laws protecting students and employees, comments about these matters should not include personally identifiable information about particular students or employees. Members of the public, staff, and students are encouraged to utilize established policies and procedures for offering suggestions or addressing concerns, complaints, or accolades prior to bringing the issue before the board. Please be mindful that the meetings of the board, including your statements at the podium, are broadcast, and you are responsible for any statements you make. In lieu of a public statement, you may choose to submit your comments to the board in writing. These statements may be submitted to the board secretary, who will distribute them to the full board, or you may contact individual board members. Also, due to time constraints and the need to complete the primary responsibilities of our meeting agenda, we cannot respond to your public comments during the meeting, so you will receive a response from us in writing. We're also available to have an open dialogue outside of our meetings and can be reached by email or phone using contact information on the Parkway website. Each speaker this evening will be limited to 3 minutes at the podium. Should you not have enough time to speak, you may submit your written comments to the board secretary, as I mentioned. In fairness to our speakers and to keep our meeting running as efficiently as possible, I will ask the audience to refrain from applause after each individual speaker. Tonight, I believe we have 5 or 6. We have 6. And I will call your names in order that you have signed up. I'll try, other than the first person, I'll try and give you a little heads up before it's your turn. So we'll begin with Clay McKinney, followed by Sydney Finnan and Jante Riggers. So right now, Clay McKinney.
Members of the board, Dr. Schneider, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Clay McKinney. I teach orchestra at Central Middle. I am a resident of Chesterfield and the parent of a rising first grader at Green Trails and a rising 7th grader at Central Middle. I'm here because of some difficult truths and harsh realities when it comes to Chromebooks. Chromebooks have become far too entertaining, and middle school students are not mature enough to handle it. Chromebooks have become the ultimate distraction. You cannot, however, take away Chromebooks any more than you could take away the bow from the orchestra class. They both can be abused, but to take them away would mean removing half the curriculum. The answer is greater teacher control over student Chromebook screens. The uncomfortable truth is that the students' rampant distraction and misuse is fueled by the knowledge that there is little chance of getting caught and little chance of having their inappropriate tab shut down. Students need our intervention in the moment, in the midst of learning, but our thinking on this topic has not kept up with the pace of the technology, and thus the tools for intervention have not been updated. What tools are out there? Most major security and filtering services out there, including 2 we already use, have a classroom management product, a telling sign of their demand from school districts. For example, Melville and Fort Zumwalt both use GoGuardian's version of this tool. Securely, the name of Parkway's hall monitoring software, also has a classroom management product, and 2 of our neighboring school districts, Ladue and Lindbergh, use Securely's classroom management. Let me be very clear, this is not a flash-in-the-pan idea. Software tools to deal with distraction are not new. I first used software like this as a teacher in 2007, nearly 2 decades ago, and the need for it has only grown exponentially. Distraction while using technology is certainly not new, but dealing with it seems to be a slow process. For example, phone use exploded in early 2000s, but it wasn't until 2023 that Missouri banned phones while driving. Technology use simultaneously with other technology use, simultaneously while engaging in something that needs our full attention like driving or learning, is the ultimate distraction. We know this. We have known it for some time, but we drag our feet regulating it. Distraction for young people is a problem, and distraction when operating technology is now an overwhelming problem. This is why we banned phones in driving and why we banned phones in schools. Furthermore, if 16-year-olds need this much help from us while driving, what does it mean at the middle school level when we place Parkway-issued ultimate distractions in the hands of 11 to 14-year-olds? 9 years of Chromebook use is enough time to recognize that this is not only a behavior issue, but equally a technology issue. How much longer will we wait to protect our students at a deeper level? Will it be another 9 years? Will we take 2 decades to deal with this? I implore the board to approve and fund better tools for oversight and teacher control of Chromebook screens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Sydney Finan.
Good evening. My first time here. I'm here to thank the board for a continued opportunity for AFS Foreign Exchange Program to host students in our schools. I'm Sydney Finan, a longtime Parkway resident, parent, and host parent. I began hosting 32 years ago when my children were in high school, and my husband and I have continued to host until this year even. And we are hosting our 20th student. I have family and children all over the world. And those children of mine have touched countless Parkway residents and kids in school. AFS is the oldest, largest, and uniquely volunteer exchange program. I counted up, we have 15 registered volunteers living in the Parkway School District. Myself and those volunteers help support families and students and the schools itself. AFS was founded 80 years ago after World War I and II by the American Field Service volunteer ambulance drivers who were looking for world peace through cultural exchange of the next generation. I'm just here to say thank you guys so much for allowing these kids to come into the Parkway schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jonte Riggers. He'll be followed by Lou Michel and Bruno Dominguez.
Yeah, hello, I'm Jonte. I'm exchange student from Germany and I'm now here in St. Louis for almost 11 months. I'll return in about a month. And I also want to say thank you very much for letting me and open your heart to the Parkway School District. I attended Parkway South High and I started off with soccer. That was great. I made most of my friends there. Then I did wrestling. And overall, I met a ton of new people there, and just thank you for offering me the opportunity.
Thank you. Next up is Lou Michel.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lou Michel, and I am an AFS exchange student from France, attending Parkway South. I am very grateful for the opportunity to study here and experience American culture. I would especially like to thank South's principal, Dr. Angie Papas Muyoko, and my favorite teacher, Ms. Susan Herman, for the kindness, support, and encouragement that they gave me throughout the year. My favorite activities were track and field and cheer, which helped me making friends and feel part of the school community. This experience has taught me so much and created memories I will always cherish. So thank you for welcoming me and making me feel like home. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Bruno Dominguez, followed by Debbie Donnelly.
Hello, my name is Bruno, and I am also an exchange student from AFS, attending Parkway South. I am here to express my gratitude to South's principal, Dr. Papas Muyoko, for allowing me to attend her school and be part of this community. I would also like to thank all of my teachers for their support and encouragement throughout the year. One of my favorite classes was marketing because it helped me improve my creativity and develop my business skills. It allowed me to think differently, work on real projects, and learn more about entrepreneurship. One of my favorite activities was playing soccer. It gave me the opportunity to make new friends, work as part of a team, and experience an important part of American high school life. And coming from Barcelona, Spain, this exchange year has been an unforgettable experience. I have learned a lot about American culture, improved my English, and grown as a person. Most importantly, I have met incredible people and created memories that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I'm very grateful to AFS Parkway South, my host family, and everyone who helped me make this experience possible. Thank you very much.
Next up is Debbie Donnelly.
Good evening, and thank you, school board members, for your service to our community and to our children. And I'm here to speak a little bit about our continued effort in equity and inclusion, and to remind us that professional development is key to ongoing recognition of internal bias. And it is important that when we look at our budget, that this is not a soft area. This area of addressing internal bias and systems is key to our children's learning and making sure that all children are seen and heard, and that all parents are seen and heard. So in upcoming budgets that will be tight, professional development in internal biases, anti-racism, understanding ourselves for our students is key. It's not a soft thing. It directly impacts our students, how we carry ourselves. And there's a need for parents to feel heard, to be respected, to be honored if there is a incident, so that there's our intent and then there's our actions, and only our actions count. Our intent does not. Playing devil's advocates, saying buts and ifs, it's not acceptable. So I encourage us to continue on the path of equity and to continue in professional development, so it is very clear to our community our stance in this work that is lifelong. So thank you.
Thank you all who spoke tonight. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda of the regular meeting of the Board of Education as scheduled for June 10th, 2026?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The next regular board meeting will be held on Wednesday, August 12th, beginning at 7 p.m. here at the Parkway Welcome Center. Next is board and superintendent reports. Matt, start us off.
All right, I'm going to continue the discussion about foreign exchange students. We actually had a bonus daughter this past year from Jordan. She's a sophomore at Parkway South High. And we actually put her on the plane this morning to head back home. But just really the administration, the teachers, all the students, just really supporting her, giving her a great experience here in Parkway. I think that's the kids tonight too kind of show it's good for both the kids that are here in Parkway, get the experience of other people coming into the country and coming to their school, and then for those kids coming here and learning about us too. The program actually that my foreign exchange student came on, she's from Jordan, she came through the YES program, and it is actually the article today in the Post-Dispatch, STL today, about the program, the fact that it was started after 9/11 to bring students from Muslim-dominated countries to the U.S. The funding is getting cut. She could be the last one from this program to come through and bring their experience of their culture here to St. Louis and Parkway, and for our kids here in Parkway to learn from them too. So I encourage you to look at the article, and if you can, put a little support for the program going forward.
Sort of following up on that, as a student in Parkway, I had the wonderful joy of having some very good friends that came over from Germany and being World Cup season, it was the same then, and it was a lot of fun and truly, amazing to still keep in touch with them today. I hope everyone had a great end of the year. I know many of us, if not all of us, attended graduations. I was able to attend Parkway Souths and speak at Parkway Centrals. It's always a great time to see the students kind of culminate their time here at Parkway. And last, just hope everyone's enjoying the summer. I'm not ready for the 95-degree heat yet, but I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But hope everyone enjoys the summer.
Yeah, so since the last meeting, end of year activities is the primary thing. So I attended West High graduation and then spoke at North High. And I tell you what, so it's really exciting to see all the seniors get, fired up about that. But the student speakers at the graduations, both of them just blew me away in terms of, they all did a really good job of talking about, their time and everything. Also attended the North High Community Conversation, which was the one that was rescheduled. Thought we had a good turnout and some really good conversations there. And just a big thanks to everybody who showed up for that and to all of the community conversations. I think, I've been part of a lot of really good conversations. I think we all heard a lot of really good feedback from those. And I can, speaking from personal experience, it's sparked conversations, outside of those meetings, just, at the pool or at random parks and things with other parents. So, so thank you everybody for participating in that, and thank you for that feedback.
So the past few weeks have gone by really fast. Doesn't seem like summer has started yet for me at least, but I did get a chance to go to the West High graduation. That was a great experience again. Our own Mrs. Hopper spoke on behalf of our board. And then I also attended the North Area Community Conversations, which was also a very good turnout. And I really do enjoy listening. I shouldn't say enjoy. I really appreciate listening to all of our community members and the things that they have to say, especially things that we might not always want to hear but need to hear in order to improve our district. So I appreciate everyone that was able to come out to any of those 4 community conversations that we've had.
I think we're all kind of saying the same sort of things tonight, but I'll echo my colleagues. I also attended some graduations, spoke at the South graduation. Still not sure how that speech went over. My 10-year-old daughter helped me with a lot of it, and it was interesting to say the least. But it was wonderful to be a part of that ceremony, as well as the Parkway North graduation, which I attended, I believe, for the 8th or 9th consecutive year. I was also at the Parkway Northeast 8th grade advancement ceremony. They don't call it graduation, which was surprisingly moving and wonderful. Once a year, we have what happened tonight with foreign exchange students that come and talk to us. And it reminds me, one of my very first board meetings was that meeting. And afterwards, I went and talked to one of the liaisons from one of the organizations, and I got on their mailing list, and every year he would email me and say, "You ready for another kid?" And my wife and I would talk about it. And but then a couple of years ago, we pulled the trigger, and we had a student from Germany that lived with us last year, and actually her sister's coming to live with us next year. And it's a wonderful program. The objectives, the goal, it's all wonderful what it does for communities. And those students always come here and thank us, but I really think we should be thanking them. There's a mindset in this country that's been growing about being wary of foreigners and that sort of thing, and the best way to combat that is to really get to know people from other places, and it expands everyone's world, and it's a wonderful thing that I'm glad that my family's part of and that this district is also a part of. And finally, we all get into this line of work because we care about teachers, and we care about students, and we care about education, and this was kind of a sad week for the Parkway North community. My very favorite teacher I ever had, Dennis Lane, Parkway North business teacher, passed away this week, and it was, it hit me because he was such an influence in my life and such a wonderful educator. I just wanted to acknowledge his passing tonight too.
Thank you, Kevin. It's difficult when people that we care about pass away, but their legacy lives on. So he lives on in you, and he lives on in the Parkway community. And I would echo the sentiments about foreign exchange students. My daughter befriended a foreign exchange student from West High, and she was just adorable, from Estonia. Her name is Maria. And she was in choir and cheerleading. She actually auditioned for cheerleading by video, and it was her dream to be a cheerleader, and she was able to do that here at Parkway. And we just got to know her and love her, and she's gone now, but you know, she'll live on in our hearts and continuing to have communication. It was really interesting to talk with her about the educational system over in Estonia compared to that of the United States. So all that to say, there's a ton of things that can be learned from these students as well when they come over here to experience what America has to offer as well. I very much enjoyed the graduations. I did speak at West High as well as at Fern Ridge, where Mr. Todd also attended, and our superintendent always attends those as well. And it's just so fun, especially when you know a lot of the students graduating, and just so inspired by them. So it was just been a wonderful experience this year with all of that. In addition to those items, on June 1st, I attended the Special School District Governing Council meeting, where we had extensive conversation about their budget and the Right to Ship plan that some of you may be familiar with by now. The Governing Council did pass the budget. It was not unanimous, but it did pass. We, however, unfortunately reached an impasse again on Subdistrict 2 election for the Board of Education Director, and that covers Hancock Place, Melville, Afton, and Bayless school districts. So we will be reconvening on that once again in September at our next Governing Council meeting to continue that election.
Okay, thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention communication, or the North Community conversation that we had, and graduations, just like everyone else has. Just like Jeffrey, I still keep in touch with a couple of kids that I went to high school with at West. Both came from Germany and stayed with friends of mine, but got to experience their culture through their eyes. And then a few years ago, finally got to visit Germany and connected with one of them, and just it's fascinating to tie some things together. So a lot of support for the program. I'm pleased to announce that the board went through the evaluation process, and Mrs. Hopper and I met with Dr. Schneider, and we informed her that we've renewed her contract. So we're gonna keep you around. So that was a great process. I also attended a dinner last week where Dr. Schneider spoke. It was a dinner to recognize the female recipients of the Eagle Scout Award here in the St. Louis area for the last several years, and Dr. Schneider was a keynote speaker and did a great job talking about her experiences and her transition here to Missouri. So it was a great event. And lastly, I would like to recognize an individual who tonight will be his last in official capacity with us, and that's Dr. Kevin Beckner. Dr. Beckner will be moving on to not necessarily greener pastures, but a similar role in education in another district. And it has been a joy I know I speak for everyone, it's been a joy to get to know you over the years as a professional, as an individual, and we will certainly miss your amazing leadership, your insight into education, and your friendship. So thank you very much for everything you've done for Parkway these many, many years, and good luck on your next chapter.
Well, thank you for that. I shared many of these events with you this past month. Lots of culminating events at different schools for the end of the year, and for my first time living through some of those events and seeing the traditions that Parkway has that are different from other districts in which I've been. I'm going to save the best for last, but so I'll come back to what I have to say at the end about graduations. But I had a few other really unique events. One of them was right here at the Welcome Center, where we saw students who are in our apprenticeship programs sign on as apprentices with local businesses, and they were going to be learning about a specific trade, and they were partnered up with a local business that they were going to be earning money as well as learning a new skill set, and that was really neat to be able to see that. It was a great night of celebration and a lot of swag that the local businesses were bringing to their kind of new hires, I guess. I also attended another unique event here in the St. Louis area called the Festival of Miles. It was my first time at a really prestigious invitational track meet where high school athletes are invited from all over the nation who have the fastest mile times in the nation to compete against one another. We actually had 3 Parkway students, one of whom was recognized tonight as a state champion, compete in those races last week, as well as other pro athletes that are from around the nation. It was a really neat event to go to. As President Todd mentioned, I was at the Soaring Higher Dinner celebrating female Eagle Scouts last week and delivering a keynote to them. It was very inspirational to see the young ladies who have taken the oath of being an Eagle Scout and what that meant to them and the projects that they have done as basically new young leaders in our community and what they have planned for their lives. It was a very, very neat thing to be at. Like you heard as well from other board members, our 4th Community Conversations was just this past month, and we have actually will be hearing about some of all of the feedback that we've gotten at those community conversations in a presentation later this evening. And then last but not least, I wanted to mention graduations and how special it was to be able to shake the hand of every single graduate from Parkway this past spring from all 5 of our high schools. It was just a beautiful time, Fern Ridge as well as our 4 comprehensive high schools, sharing that moment with board members, the beautiful music and speakers that each high school had. It was just a very special time to see how it's done here. So it was a busy, very, very busy month, but an extraordinarily rewarding one.
Next up is our consent agenda. We've had an opportunity to review that. Does anyone have anything further that they would like to discuss in the consent agenda items? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the June 10th, 2026 board materials?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there anything to be pulled to action or closed? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Next up is 12.01, the approval of our 26-27 budget. So I'd like to invite Ms. Carrie Nunn, our CFO, to join us at the podium.
Thank you. Good evening. Last month, me and Dawn Trokey, our Executive Director of Finance, brought to you a pretty substantial sharing of our budget. And then we've also shared an electronic version of our 26-27 board book, budget book, which is 167 pages long. And I'll have those hard copies for you the next time I see you. But our budget for next year, in summation, is a total expenditures of $419,385,803. Spread over our 4 funds, which is our general fund, our special fund, our capital fund, and our debt service fund. Any questions about our budget for next year?
I don't think so.
It's hard to understand it without the buckets, but.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
With the dollar bill.
Well, we should just say that, thank you for putting that all together. I did read most of it, and did ask questions ahead of this meeting, so thank you very much. Can you just give us an overview, though, as, you know, as our community members are talking about the budget and looking at that, and what our concerns are about our fund balance? It's projected to go out over the 5-year period of time where, you know, we're we're where we're at now, and it's gonna be going down substantially projected. So can you just kind of share what some of the drivers are and what we're gonna be doing to rectify some of that, hopefully over the course of time?
Yes, absolutely. So our projections right now is that our expenses have been, over the last historic time since COVID, have been growing at a 4% rate, whereas our revenue has been growing only at a 3% rate, which that's really a couple of factors. We're seeing the growth in our expenses outpacing our revenue, our funding growth, due to just essential needs costs rising significantly, mostly due to inflation. And people see this even in their standard home, their essential needs costs are just rising, and that is true in the district as well. And then in the revenue area, we are seeing, we have constraints around our revenue growth, our funding growth, primarily through the Hancock Amendment and through our senior tax freeze that limits the amount of growth that our funding can have. And so when you project that over the next 5 years, we are going to be eating into or using up our reserve, our fund balance. So a fund balance is very similar to kind of like a savings account. You have it there and you reach into to be able to sustain operations throughout the year, but it also is there to help to help us with mitigating risk. So there is going to be times, hopefully not frequently, where you have unexpected expenditures that couldn't be planned for, or you have unexpected revenue situations, shortfalls that couldn't have been expected. And so having a appropriate amount in your fund balance allows you to weather those storms. So as we are projecting forward, if we keep things exactly as they are and our projections go out, we will start seeing a significant rise in deficit spending if we keep things going the same rate at which they've been going, maintaining the same level of service, experiencing the same growth in our revenue that we've been experiencing for the last few years. So that's what our future looks like, and we're going to be diving into even a little bit more of this as we engage in our community survey presentation a little bit later tonight. It's very riveting, so I encourage you to stay and listen. But that is what the horizon looks like for us over the next 5 years if no course adjustment is made.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Carrie.
All right, thank you.
So following that, may I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the 2026-2027 expenditure budget as presented by the administration in the amount of $419,385,803, with $115,188,907 to be expended from the general fund, $176,990,167 from the special revenue fund, $86,271,695 from the capital projects fund, and $40,935,034 from the debt service fund.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hopper?
Yes?
Mr. Kilper?
Yes.
Ms. Mapp Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Schindler?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Spector?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Next up, we have potentially the approval of the 2026-27 Comprehensive School Improvement Plan. So Tiffany Holman-Bess, our Deputy Superintendent, will kick things off.
Good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, Dr. Schneider, Mrs. Stover, and members of the Board of Education. Our team's excited to present our 26-27 Comprehensive School Improvement Plan for your approval this evening. As you recall, we've had these same goal areas over the last 2 years since we finished the completion of the strategic plan. Student success in school, student success in life, and resources for student success. And so we will go through our previous year data and then jump into the 26-27 CSIP plan. So if you recall, when we were with you in March, we talked about anchoring our work in MTSS, and this is really important because in the summer of 2025, about a year ago, we asked our schools to take a self-assessment. As part of that self-assessment, they had to rate themselves on some essential standards. You can see where we were the summer 1 year ago, we asked them to do this assessment 2 more times throughout the school year. And about 90% of our schools met the criteria for partial implementation because we understood that they're not going to get to full implementation within 1 school year. This is something to celebrate and can be connected to some of the data we're going to take a look at from last year. And so we're super proud of the leadership of this work under Carter Snow and our school leaders who have done this work in their schools with their teams to get this type of progress in 1 school year. So we're going to start with our first 2 categories of last year's data, student success in school and student success in life. Dr. Beckner shared with you earlier this year that we undertook rewriting our curriculum to establish essential standards, success criteria, and learning intentions for our Core Plus classes. That work on our Core Plus classes is coming into a review cycle, and then we'll continue to pick up more courses. And so we're excited that that work continued through boot camp this summer, and we will continue in finishing courses as part of the plan. And so we need to do some celebrating because our schools did some amazing work this year. And our students in 2nd through 10th grade take the NWA ELA MAP and reading assessment. We set a goal for our schools to hit 81% in reading, and they hit 81.8%, something to celebrate. We nearly hit our math goal at 78.5, but we were just short of it, but still reasons to celebrate. We also wanted to see growth beyond the national average, which is right at 50%. That's the national norm for growth. In Parkway, our school, 61.7% of our students met their growth target in reading, and 56.7% of our students met their growth target in math. The other thing that is written into our CSIP is looking at the disparity gap of students in the state-identified student groups. If you recall those, students identify as Black, Hispanic, English language learners, students with an IEP, and students who may be on free or reduced lunch. We had a 3% decrease as the goal. While we didn't hit 3% in math and reading, what we are proud of is that we are starting to close the disparity gap for students in the student group and students who are not. We did see a decrease of 1.6% in reading and 1% in math. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Matheson to talk us through a little bit of data on the annual survey.
All right, thank you. Let's see, there we go. So there are 3 key questions on the annual survey that provide feedback for the CSIP, and those are: school is meaningful for us, learning is connected outside of the classroom for secondary, this is for secondary students only, and I know what I'm learning and why I'm learning it. We were looking for that's blurry. We were looking for a 5% increase in each one of these areas. However, we missed the mark, but we saw some pretty significant increases. For school is meaningful to me, we went from 63.7% to 68.7%. That was our goal, 68.7%, and our actual was 65%. Connected outside the classroom, secondary only, we wanted to go from 47.6% to 52.6%, and we hit 51.6%. So it was very close to our goal. And I know what and why I'm learning. Our goal was 62.1%, and we went to 62.4%. This last one, this is the first time we've tracked a change in the 3rd question as it relates to the Clarity for Learning and curriculum work. And we just finished, like I said, and we just finished that work, and that was 62.4%. So that was the first time that we have tracked this. Next, we'll look at resources for student success. The annual survey showed that we were relatively flat when it came to district facilities meeting the needs of our students and staff. We also saw a lower participation this year over last year due to the timing of the survey's administration. The data is informative for our work and will not be overlooked. We do acknowledge that there still is work to be done, and Jason Rooks and his team will continue this into next year. In the new CSIP, you will see a goal around the disparity gap as this ongoing work, and also in the task forces that are going on currently with human resources. And I'll turn this back over to Dr. Holman-Bess.
So let's take a look at what our CSIP goals for 26-27 based on the data that we received from this past year. We have set some goals and written some action steps. And so I'll start first with student success in school. This is a little hard to see. You will notice that for NWA math, we are looking for just under a 2% increase in achievement and growth, along with a 3% decrease in the disparity gap. And for NWA reading, we would like to see just under a 2% increase in achievement and just under a 0.5% increase in growth, along with that same 3% decrease in the disparity gap. In reviewing our SEL survey data, sorry about that. Oop, here we go. Sorry. In reviewing our SEL survey data, originally we were looking for an increase across 4 of 6 areas. As we learned more about the SEL survey, we realized what it was in fact measuring and how it was asking questions of the student and summing up in these 5 categories. As a district, we know that the 2 that we've selected to track and focus and train on are foundation to us achieving mission. And so those 2 areas are sense of belonging. We realize this is foundational to the success of the system and of our young people. And so we are looking for that to go from 62.5% to 65.5%. And the district will continue to support schools around self-efficacy, where we see kids taking care of their well-being by goal setting and building their confidence, which is essential to their learning experiences in the classroom. And so we'll be tracking and measuring those 2 areas. It does show the data for self-management, self-awareness, and emotional regulations, and schools may self-select to focus in those areas. We do have schools that focus in those areas now, but as a district, we'll be supporting these 2. It's not that the others are not important, but we, again, can only do so much at one time. So the action steps to support this, you will notice, are really focused on strengthening our Tier 1 instruction and curriculum implementation, as well as focusing on the well-being of our students. Through the work of TLA in partnership with Student Services, we'll be able to do both with our coordinators and the professional development of teachers. You will also notice we are not abandoning MTSS, and that we are also attending to individual student needs with a focus on individual student problem solving for our learners who show a need for more support. In the area of student success in life, again, Dr. Matheson talked about this question on the annual survey that we give, that students are reporting whether or not learning is connected to outside the classroom. We are looking for another 5% increase. We had quite significant growth in our secondary students answering that question. And then we're also looking for a 5% increase in the students who report that school is meaningful for them across the system. And so much of the work in this category was informed by the work of the Real World Relevance Task Force that was led by Lindsay Perkins and Dr. Beckner. And so this is taking a look, you'll notice some language in there from the Student Success Ready Network around market value assets and ensuring that we are tracking that information on students and addressing gaps for students who may or may not have access to or may not receive a an MBA before they graduate from high school. And in goal 3, this has to do with the facilities. Dr. Matheson talked about the continued work that Jason and his team will be doing. So looking for that percentage of our facilities meeting the needs of our students to increase by 2%. And then in working with Dr. Boggess's department around the disparity in demographics of our students to look for a decrease in the disparity gap between our staff and student ratios and what that looks like, and so going from 31% to 29%. We've always had this goal in looking at food and nutrition in the strategic plan, and so we're still trying to figure out how to measure that. We are going to work with our new food service vendor to figure out what that metric will look like to be able to collect that information back for our students, so we're trying to establish some baseline data. So this work will be, this is pretty self-explanatory. We're going to continue our work around the budget task force, looking at staffing through the recommendations of the certified task force. And a key piece that we are working on that will start in the fall is the evaluation task force, so we can give growth-producing feedback to our educators every day. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Done a great job with this throughout the year, and so thank you. This time, may I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the school year 26-27 comprehensive school improvement plan as presented in the June 10th, 2026 board materials.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Kilper,
Yes.
Ms. Matt Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer.
Yes.
Mr. Spector,
Yes.
Mr. Todd.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Next up, I'd like to invite Carter Snow, our Director of Assessment and Continuous Improvement, to talk to us about the comprehensive assessment plan.
Good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, members of the board, Dr. Schneider, and Mrs. Dover. It's my pleasure to present to you the 26-27 Comprehensive Assessment Plan for your approval. Each year, this plan is submitted to ensure we have a balanced assessment system that gives our students, our educators, and our parents the information needed to foster student achievement and student growth. The data we gather from these assessments helps us understand student progress towards mastering standards, curriculum attainment, and achieving ultimately the goals outlined in our strategic plan. Done correctly, assessments support students to be empowered to understand what they're learning, why they're learning it, where they are in their learning, and where they need to go next. This year, there's a few key areas I'd like to highlight. One of those areas is our selection of a new foundational reading assessment in Amira. After conducting a thorough review of our 4 state-approved assessments, including vendor demonstrations, a small field test, reviewing references, Amira was the overwhelming pick from teachers, reading specialists, instructional coaches, and administrators involved. The selection of Amira will allow us to proactively screen students for foundational reading needs and allow for detailed progress monitoring to support students requiring additional help to meet grade level reading standards. It will also meet or exceed the state's requirements for a reading assessment and dyslexia screener in grades K through 3. While we are moving away from NWEA reading fluency as that reading screening assessment, we will maintain our relationship with NWEA, specifically around math growth, as a benchmark assessment in grades K through algebra and math, and kindergarten through 10th grade in reading. I believe that incorporating growth into our strategic plan has been a meaningful driver of continuous improvement in Parkway, and I'm happy to see some of the progress that we're making as a school district. Finally, supporting students in acquiring valuable skills and credentials for their future through college and career readiness assessments like ACT, AP, etc. exams is certainly a big part, but not the only part of a market value asset. And so looking forward to following those recommendations around real-world learning and ensuring that our students have real and meaningful experiences beyond just test results to help them gain meaningful employment or whatever might come next for them outside of our walls. Ultimately, the cornerstone of our assessment approach remains teacher-provided assessments. They provide critical real-time data on student learning, enabling us to promptly address diverse learning needs within the classroom and within the school as a part of a multi-tiered system of support. Now that we've completed a curriculum revision for many of our courses, assessment of that curriculum will become an area of focus for teacher development in the upcoming school year. By implementing this comprehensive assessment plan, we're able to closely monitor student progress, quickly identify and respond to areas requiring improvement. And as you've seen from our previous assessment presentation led by Dr. Holman-Bess and Dr. Matheson, Dr. Beckner, effectively celebrate success with all of our stakeholders. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the comprehensive assessment plan.
I've got one question. You probably don't have the answer, but obviously we were forced to pivot from NWEA, from a reading assessment tool from the state. And so we've had to pivot to Amira. Do we anticipate having to pivot every single year because of these issues that we're seeing, or, you know, the state kind of picking what they like? Do we have any insight into that, if it is something we're going to have to pivot on yearly?
Well, the hope is that we don't.
Right.
And so I think that, you know, the state certainly, they're going to do an RFP process relatively regularly with these assessment vendors to figure out what's the best possible assessment to provide for students that provides a rigorous experience, really gets into the underlying components of reading and gives us information we need to respond with. We believe we selected an assessment with Amira that meets those requirements and exceeds them, and so we certainly hope that we can continue to use this in the ongoing future. I think that stability for our teaching staff as they really work with learning a new assessment, how to use those results within the context of the classroom. Even the student experience learning a new assessment is important, and so I would certainly advocate that if we're happy with the results that we're getting from Amira or from that student experience, that we hopefully can continue to use that for the ongoing future.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Carter. Appreciate this. May I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the 26-27 Comprehensive Assessment Plan as presented in the June 10th, 2026 Board meeting materials?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Kilper?
Yes.
Ms. Matt Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Schindler?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Spector?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. And
And now we need to purchase the assessments. So included in the now approved comprehensive assessment plan, thank you, there are 2 assessments that need to be purchased annually and require your approval. The first of those assessments is the ACT district testing for all juniors and pre-ACT for all sophomores, estimated at $98,000. And then finally, the advanced placement exams that allow students to achieve a positive result, earn college credit for acceptable courses. All exam fees are funded by students. However, we pay out of the activity accounts. That estimate is $275,500.
any questions? Okay. May I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve ordering materials and scoring services for the following assessments: the ACT state and district testing estimated at $98,000 to be paid from the 2027 assessment programs budget, and the funds for the AP exam estimated at $275,500 will come from the 2027 Parkway High School's activity accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Kilper?
Yes.
Ms. Matt Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Schindler?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Spector?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you again, Carter. Next up, 13.01 is our Section E policies. Section E covers support services. These policies have been reviewed by several board members, but will be up for review by the entire board and vote at a future board meeting. Should board members have any additional questions about these policies, please contact Nikki Stover, and she will be happy to gather additional information to share with you before the board considers them for a vote. Next up, 14.01 is our Facilities 2050 update, and Jason Rooks, our Executive Director of Operations, will lead us in that discussion.
Good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, Parkway Board, Dr. Schneider, and Mrs. Stover. As has become a tradition, we end the year with a quick update on Facilities 2050 and the work that we've done this past year. And as I thought about Facilities 2050 over the past, believe it or not, we're going into year 3. The real life of Facilities 2050, when Dr. Marty first set me down, was Plan A. Going into year 2, it looked like Plan B, and now the real life of Facilities 2050 is that graphic on the bottom. We've come full circle when I was in a building and someone told me about a Facilities 2050 project that I hadn't even heard about yet. But it keeps it exciting and it keeps it fun, and it's really the way Facilities 2050 should be. We are constantly reacting, responding to the needs of the district. We're looking forward, we're looking backwards, sometimes we're even looking sideways. So just a refresher, our strategic plan sits on top of this all, and underneath that is Facilities 2050. This year, specifically, and you've seen this graphic before, our core and steering committees took a little bit of a back seat. So I kind of shaded those in gray, but I don't want those, they didn't disappear. They were doing work, but they were doing more work behind the scenes than they were out in front of everybody. We continued with our Prop S 2022 bond work, as well as our ECC work group and our Project Flex. So obviously you're familiar with the Prop S. Our ECC work group was looking at our ECC needs specifically in the South area, and our Project Flex is our pilot of in the classroom furniture is currently being led by Lindsay Perkins and continues to move forward. So we had a rule this year that no Parkway presentation could be done without there being buckets. So this is a reminder as we get into conversations about bond funds, is that bond funds are legally restricted. For example, Prop S 2022 bond funds cannot be used for supplies and salaries. So our bond funds are allocated and restricted by our bond language and can only be used for those purposes. And we did a lot of bond work this year that I do put under that Facilities 2050 umbrella. Specifically, North High continued to progress, and if you've driven by North High at all, you can see that they've moved from one side of the building to the other, and there continues to be major construction. At Central High, we finished their pool renovation, and it looks really nice. And we also remodeled some locker rooms. Once again, it was a night and day turnover, as well as we're finishing some roofing that needed to be done at Central High. Right outside of this building right here, we finalized some site work here at South Middle, as well as the new parking lot that was very much needed, especially on nights where South Middle was having events, as well as we were having events here at the Welcome Center. Parking became a premium. This is just a snapshot of some of the work we did. This summer, our big work is the Craig Elementary. We're going into phase 2, and we're really excited about that. That is a last day of school till first day of school construction project, and really is a facelift to the entire building. And we're excited about that work that's happening. And we're starting Craig's sister school, Piermont. We're starting their phase 1 this year. So Piermont's getting a major facelift this summer, and once again, going from the end of school to the very beginning of school. And those are going to be our big projects, as well as South High's getting the pool restoration, locker room remodels, sprinklers, and some significant technology updates. Those are 3 projects that are happening this summer, in a summer that is going to be our largest construction summer in Parkway ever. So I believe we're hitting somewhere around 23 buildings we're touching in some way, shape, or form with regards to construction. And I'm really proud of our team and the work that they're doing with Putker, our CMAR, and others around making sure that this work gets done in a high quality and within the time frames that we have available. But you may remember our previous Facilities 2050 work. We took over the steering committee, we set the stage, we identified values and goals. That feels like it was a long time ago. If you take a close look at this picture, that's Dr. Marty in the middle and Dr. Beckner sitting on the ground in front of him. Facilities 2050 wins this year. We purchased our Parkway Early Childhood South Mason facility. We were really excited about that. It's a great building, and we're looking forward to opening that up in August. Our facilities team closed over 10,000 tickets this school year, serving different maintenance and needs within our buildings. Our staffing on our facility side is improving, especially on our maintenance side. The teams are continuing. We've got almost a full team in maintenance, and we're seeing significantly more applicants on the custodial side. So the overall condition of our buildings has improved significantly this last year. Our stakeholder feedback has been improving. We're hearing very positive comments from our principals as well as our staff members. Are our buildings perfect? No. We cover over 3 million square feet of buildings. Something's broken every day within our district, but I believe the work of Facilities 2050 is helping us get to a better place and a better environment for our students, teachers, and staff. So the Facilities 2050 work, as we got halfway through the year, we kind of took a step back, and I said, all right, we'll give Dr. Beckner, Dr. Holman-Best back their steering committee. We'll let Carrie do some budget work that's apparently a big deal, and we'll take kind of a back seat, and we're going to focus on doing some data collection. So that's really what we've been doing since the beginning of January, working with partners like Schneider Electric, Avant Marketing, and really gathering as much data as we can about the condition of our buildings, about the state of our district, what does it look like, and we're right there between gathering the data and converting that data into information. We're having a lot of really good conversations, asking questions, learning more, some of it validating our assumptions about the district, some of us causing to question some of our assumptions about the district. But this is I would say the heavy lifting that Facilities 2050 did this year was focused really on that data collection and starting that process of converting it to information. So the road ahead is going to be an exciting one. We look forward to sharing that data with the board, hopefully sometime this summer, and then engaging the community in conversations around the direction they would like to see the district go in the upcoming years as we continue to develop Facilities 2050. I don't want to take credit for any of this work. I couldn't have done it without the leadership and mentorship of Dr. Beckner, Dr. Holman-Bess, and them lending me their steering committee. Dr. Schneider has been a huge support over the past year. I would, Carrie Nunn, our CFO, has always been a huge support for me as my supervisor. And I have to give credit to Matt Fafaro, our new director of facilities, who's really taken hold of that immediate improvement piece of Facilities 2050 and has taken the ball and run with that and allowed me to focus on that data collection and looking to the future for Facilities 2050. So thank you to the board. I always try to keep these short and brief because you guys are involved in a lot of the work throughout the year, so I don't really feel like I need to go into real granular detail. Any questions?
I'll just say thank you to you and your team for everything that you've been working on this year and preceding years, but especially this year. I know it's been a busy one, and you've pivoted a number of times, but I think most of us that went on the tour last summer of construction projects are looking forward to doing that again this summer with as many things as we have going on.
We'll have plenty of choices to pick from.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, for sure. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much. Next up, I'd like to invite Lisa Tomich, our Chief Communications Officer, Carrie Nunn, our CFO, and Chris Tennell with Discovery Works to talk to us about the community engagement and budget solution update.
All right, good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, members of the board, Dr. Schneider and Ms. Stover. We're here tonight to give you, we're really excited to be here tonight to give you an update on our community engagement and budget solutions. It's been a while since we were up here talking about this. So I'm going to be presenting tonight with Carrie Nunn, our CFO, and Chris Tennell with Discovery Works. He's our consultant for the community survey. So just to give you a sense of the ground we're going to cover tonight, we're going to start with some background. These are some slides that you'll recognize from community conversations that we've been sharing with people as we've defined the problem and talking about the reasons we're having these conversations. We'll talk about what we learned at community conversations. A few of you, all of you, I think, have attended them. And so you'll hear some voices from some of the people who were there, as well as learn some of the themes that surface from each one. We'll talk about the tax rate option or as a path forward, the community survey, and then we'll leave the rest for questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, who will talk about some background.
Okay. Good evening. So this is a slide that we shared at our community engagement events. So it's a slide that we shared multiple times. It's a slide that you have not seen for the first time, but probably many times now. And this slide really is showing the problem that we cannot ignore, the fiscal storm that we are in and going to see continue if no action is taken. With this, on this slide, you'll see that the first line, the red line, represents our operating expenses, and the bottom line, the blue line, is our operating funding. And as you can see from this forecast, we are having our operating expenses are exceeding and growing faster than our operating funding is. And in our community engagement events, we also measured that gap, which we will do tonight and a few slides later on. But this is the slide that we started having conversations around, especially around the inflation that we were seeing around our essential needs back in December of 2024. We started having these internal conversations that allowed us to then prepare our budget for the 25-26 school year. And so we had to take our reality, our current reality of what we were seeing with the data that we had at that time in preparing for the 25-26 school year, not knowing yet at this point in time when we were preparing that budget what the full impact would be of the senior tax freeze. So we created the budget that we are currently living in right now of the 25-26 school year, where we had a 10% reduction in our supplies and services. We left some vacant positions unfilled. We reduced professional development, and we reduced building and department budgets, and we had a budget saving of $12.7 million. And then as we were going into our current budget, the budget that you just approved tonight, the 26-27 school year, we also did more reductions in our building and department budgets and found another cost savings of a minimum of $2.7 million, knowing that if we were having some shortfall or deficit spending, we do have a strong fund balance that can sustain us through the long term. But as you know in your own homes, if you are going into your savings account to pay for your operating, your daily household needs, that is not a sustainable financial reality that you can maintain for an extended period of time. So going back to that measurement of what that gap is from our shortfall from our funding and our revenue, this is the chart that we also showed at the community events to measure that gap. And so the next opportunity we have to address the shortfall would be in the next budget cycle, which would be the school year 27-28. And you can see that gap shortfall measures at $4.1 million of a shortfall of a deficit budget. So if we were to say we were going to roll up our sleeves and we were going to find the savings there, that would be great, and we would have a balanced budget that year. But then as you can see, the very next year, we then have another deficit and then another deficit. If you were to measure and add up all of this over the full 10 years, it would be about $75 million. And so that is, that's not a sustainable reality. What it is we have a multi-year issue that needs a multi-year solution. So because Dr. Schneider started on July 1st, she was able to initiate and put in place the budget task force. And so over this past fall, this past school year, they were doing a lot of learning. They did a lot of work. They gave recommendations to Dr. Schneider that then presented to you guys in January of 26. And we're going to now engage in one of the recommendations that you then tasked us with was a community engagement and surveying our stakeholders. And so now I'm going to turn that back over to Lisa to talk about that process.
All right, so just as a refresher, you all in January heard the recommendations from the Budget Task Force, and then in February, we launched community engagement. So you might remember, it seems like a long time ago, it was cold, and it was at State of the District. So that was the first time that Dr. Schneider and Carrie had presented to the community the problem that we're facing. And just the sense of, seeing the line chart that you saw, and also learning about buckets, learning about how school finance worked. So they began taking our community, informing our community of not only about how we're structured, but the problems ahead if we do nothing. In March and April, we had surveys. We gathered broader feedback online as well as on the phone on a survey. And then we also, in March through May, held a series of community conversations. We held one in each area of the district, really well attended. We were really happy with turnout. And that brings us today. So the intent of all that was to gather a lot of data. We wanted to gather qualitative research through the community conversations, as well as quantitative research through the data that would help give you a better sense of what our community wants. So these are some of the strategies we use to engage our community. We wanted to make sure that we had clear, consistent communication. We did it through multiple channels. We used social media and newsletters and traditional media outreach to make sure that we were reaching all people, as many people as we possibly could in Parkway. We wanted to do interactive dialogue, so not just, give people information, but hear back from them. And so that's where the community conversations came in, as well as we did have other opportunities to engage with stakeholder groups such as teachers and different advisory groups in the district. we wanted to make sure that we were getting broad feedback also. So the community survey allowed us to do that. We sent postcards to every household in Parkway, giving them instructions on how to participate. And then all that comes down to the thematic analysis that you're going to hear more about. So this is just kind of a by the number slide, so you can see how all of that translates into numbers. We had mailers that went out to 60,000 residents. So the postcard, as I mentioned, for the survey. We also wanted to let people know that we were having the community conversations, dates and times where they could come and participate. And then Parkway Today, which goes out every year to all residents, that also included information about the budget. So we had more than 500 residents attend a community conversation event. We also had staff and administrators at those events. We took out those numbers so that way you could see how many Parkway residents attended those. More than 2,300 survey responses, 4 stories that ran either on TV news or in West News, 6,000 website page views on Invested in Parkway, which we've kind of called our storytelling hub for our fiscal. If you want to learn more about this whole thing that we're going through right now, they can go there and get a lot of resources, see videos from the community conversations events, the slide deck, FAQ. And then finally, social media reach. So we use social media to let people know that we were having, the different events and some of the information we were learning. So these are some pictures that we took at them. So as you can see, pretty full house at West High, South High, fantastic turnout at Central High and North, and a lot of just really great engaging conversations happening. How we structured these events, we wanted to make sure that people were getting the information first. So Dr. Schneider and Carrie spent about 30 minutes with a presentation on our current reality. Then we had table conversations with probably about 6 to 8 people per table and a facilitator at each one with questions that people responded to, and all of those notes were captured by the facilitator, and then we collected that and recorded the data. We did a share out, so we had volunteers from the tables that would share out what they talked about with a greater group, which was a great way to hear some of the common themes and some of the differences among the different tables. We also wanted to make sure that people had a way to ask questions. So to do that, we had note cards at each table, and we collected, I don't know how many we collected, but we did respond to each question that we had where people left their contact information. So I thought you might like to hear some of the voices and some of the discussions. Just a real quick, we're gonna play a quick video that will allow you to hear from some Parkway residents who participated.
I think it was a great move for the Parkway School District to have these meetings to educate the parents about and all the taxpayers about what's going on right now, so that we're not surprised down the line.
Something that I would say I was really surprised by is that Parkway is locally funded, but 92% locally funded.
The cost of buses, the cost of healthcare, I think we don't consider that.
What we heard tonight was a compelling story. We've all experienced some level of inflation, but what we heard tonight is how it's affecting Parkway School District.
Looking at increasing funding as an investment in our kids, in our communities, in our future, and that we really have to look at the prolonged health of the district.
Parkway clearly has a track record of financial security and money management.
We've got a retired person who is looking to sell the house at some point. They will want their property values to stay high, and keeping Parkway strong is the best way to do that.
The cuts that we talked about reduction are just really not sustainable over a 10-year period without really sacrificing the quality of teachers, programs, and all of our students would inevitably feel that.
We don't have kids in school anymore, but we still care. It matters to our property values, and we want to see our community thrive.
We've all got skin in the game, not just parents, not just students, not just teachers, but the whole community does.
So I want to thank everyone who came to those. They gave us a lot of really great information and a sense of how our community feels. So wanted to share with you some of the themes, some high-level themes that we heard from each one of these events. At West High, we heard, and of course this was the first one, there was a lot of, when we think about the concern that people had, there was a lot of focus on understanding the size of the challenge and surprise around how big this challenge is. People asked a lot. We heard people asking about what must be protected and what might be lost if we pursue a strategy of just cuts. And the tone centered on Pride and Parkway and protecting quality. At South High, there was more of a focus on the path forward and realistic solutions. They were surprised by the tax rate context. So we had a slide that showed, over time, how, what has happened to Parkway's tax rate and how it's gone down as a result of rollbacks and the Hancock Amendment. And we also heard a lot of asking how to build buy-in with a greater community. So one thing that we did hear, I think at every single one of these, is how are you gonna reach people who don't have kids in Parkway schools? How are you gonna reach my neighbor whose child maybe graduated 10 years ago? Just that is something that we heard, I think, from all four. So from Central High and North High, at Central High, there is a focus on the need for new funding. We heard that a lot at Central. The connection between strong schools and property values and how that plays into community strength. And the overall tone there centered around shared responsibility and pride. At North High, we heard support for new revenue over deeper cuts, an emphasis on outreach, again, an emphasis on outreach to people who don't have kids in Parkway schools, and further responsibility and long-term sustainability. Common themes from all locations: protecting the student experience. People really want to keep Parkway Parkway. We heard that loud and clear, not just from the share-outs, but from the data that we collected at these. Avoiding deep cuts. People don't want cuts to impact the opportunities that kids have in the classroom. They want to continue to see visible stewardship. We've had a long history of that in Parkway, and that is some information we shared with people, and that resonated. They want us to make sure that we continue to do that. And they also want to see us do some strong, broad communication, make sure that we are showing the information that we showed them to others throughout the district and really be proactive in our outreach. And then finally, long-term health. There's a lot of concern for maintaining Parkway's quality, our reputation, our standing among other school districts in the St. Louis area. And they want us to maintain our status also as a destination district for staff. So the additional takeaways, it was really amazing to be part of these and see, as you saw from the video, a lot of the people who were talking on that video walked in the door with no knowledge at all about what we were going to share with them. And to see them, learn and really understand and come to a position where they were suddenly talking and sharing, engaging with neighbors and family members and friends about the issue and asking questions, it was really cool. So these did a fantastic job of building awareness around our financial challenge. They helped surface what our community values. And they identified, just as important, they also identified information gaps, where we need to do better in informing our district and our staff even, and where communication should improve. So this is giving you an additional layer of research that you will also hear, you're gonna hear very soon from Chris Tunnell about this survey to help you make a decision. Before we hand it to him, Carrie's gonna talk a little bit more about the tax rate option that we did share with people at the last two community engagement events.
Thank you. So this was a slide that was actually shared at the last two community engagement events. We shared with them that there could be possible, what it would look like to see a possible increase in a levy of 46 cents, which would equate to, if you are a homeowner and your value of your home is about $400,000, then that would translate to about a $7 per week increase in your tax bill, or $1 a day. And so what got us to this 46 cents? How did we determine that this could be a potential possible path forward for us? Well, let's go through what that process looked like for us. So we had to start with our core assumptions. So our core assumptions were, we knew that our operating expenses since COVID have seen an annual increase of 4%. So we took those into consideration in our modeling when we were preparing for our expenses in the future. We also knew that we had revenue constraints, so we knew that our growth in our revenue was limited due to the Hancock Amendment and the senior tax freeze. And we also wanted to have a model that would then forecast over 10 years and could show financial health in those 10 years. So you might say then, well, what does a 10-year health look like? Is particularly the big component of this, and that's maintaining a 45% fund balance. By maintaining that, we can have stable cash flow that allow us to meet our payroll and our operation expenses without having to do any short-term borrowing. It allows us to have that risk mitigation if we do have, not be it like significantly large ones, but if we do have those bumps in the road where we have some unexpected expenses or a shortfall in revenue that was not planned or foreseen, that we can weather that storm. And also wanted to maintain the AAA rating that we have, which we're one of 4 school districts in the state of Missouri that have that, and we want to protect that credit rating because that ultimately also helps us when we do need to go out and get bonds. It allows us to have a lower interest rate, and it also shows a financial, just a financial responsibility that we carry as a district. So taking that into consideration, we evaluated multiple paths. We didn't start with a revenue, with a levy in mind. We started with where we wanted to, we started with our assumptions, and then we built scenarios based on those assumptions. We had multiple assumptions that we went through. I'm going to share later with you about 3 of them that we kind of really engaged in, but there was multiple ones, more than just the 3 that I'm going to show you, but they were all hovering around the 3 that I'm getting ready to show you. But they were engaging in what does a cut-only strategy looks like? What does a small levy plus cuts look like? What does just a levy look like? And then we also wanted to make sure as we compared those different scenarios that the impact, what was the impact to students? What was the impact to our staff? What was the impact to our community? And then what was the option for the stabilization that we needed over time? And here are the scenarios that we engaged in through that process. Was we did look at what does a cut-only option look like. So that would be a $0 change to our levy. So that's that $75 million cuts we would have to make. And we found that that had substantial impact to our students and our staff. And then as we looked at another option, which was having a small levy and more moderate cuts, so if we increased the levy by 25% and then did $21 million in cuts, we also found that that impact would make it difficult to keep the experience of Parkway. The Parkway experience would be in jeopardy under that model as well. And then with the last option that we landed on with stability, providing stability for Parkway or sustain Parkway would be that 46 cents option. And so why does that 46 cents option sustain Parkway? It sustains us because it takes into consideration and compensates for those funding restrictions that we have. It also helps us keep pace with the expense growth that we have, and then allows us to maintain that financial health that we want over a course of 10 years, being that 45% fund balance. So we're back to this slide that we started with. So remember, this is the multi-year fiscal storm that we needed a multi-year solution for. So if we engaged in a possible 46 cents levy increase, what would this chart look like then? And this is what the chart would look like. You'll see that the lines have switched. The first blue line is our operating funding, and the second line, the red line, is our operating expenses. And so our operating funding is actually exceeding or keeping pace with the expenses that we would have over the course of 10 years. And that's how we got to that 46 cents. But I wanted to also, I'll hand it back over to Elisa to talk about the community survey process.
Okay, so this is the point I'm going to introduce Chris Tennell with Discovery Works, who administered and will share with you the results of our survey.
Thank you, Elisa, and thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to talk through this. I think I just want to acknowledge there were, I guess, on 9 slides that summarized that whole community conversation process. And we have the option to be engagement partners for school districts all over the place. And the work that Dr. Schneider and Carrie and Elisa and her team did was some of the more exceptional work that we've seen done in school districts that we do really everywhere. So I just want to acknowledge that that was a really well-done process, and they've put you guys in a great place to get some good qualitative data and some listening to your community. So with that, I'd like to talk a little bit about the community survey results that we did. So what we'll talk about tonight is kind of the quantitative piece of all this data. We heard the qualitative from Elisa. You guys got a lot of that in the community conversations. So this is a quantitative piece that, one, not only gives you an opportunity to get kind of that scientific data from your community, but also see if you can actually verify some of those things that you heard in those community conversations. And we had a pretty unique opportunity because we had this survey in the field while the community conversations were going on. So it wasn't an opportunity to say, okay, we heard this in these community conversations, now let's go verify. You know, we kind of ran simultaneously, so it was a little exciting to see, okay, so did what we hear kind of align with, did what we hear on the survey piece align with what we heard during the community conversations. So I'm talking tonight just about the phone survey. We had an online survey go out as well. And we focus on the phone survey when we get to this point with school districts, because this is your decision-making tool. This is your scientifically modeled plus or minus 5% random sample of Parkway residents. So it has a margin of about 5, as I said, has a margin of about 5%. So that's that plus or minus that you see when you look at surveys on the news and that sort of thing. And then it's modeled for gender and parent status. So what that means is when we do this survey work, we know that women tend to respond to these surveys more often than men, and your parents tend to respond to these surveys more often than people who don't have children in schools. We also know that those two groups tend to be more positive about school issues. So we model those back down so we get close to a 50-50 gender split and close to a 60-40, 60 non-parents, 40% parent split to make sure that we're giving you realistic data. You heard Elisa talk a little bit about kind of some of those common themes, and she talked a little bit even specifically about what some of the themes that bubbled up at each of the 4 high school community conversations. So I just want to kind of circle back to kind of those overarching themes, because we're going to see them as we go through the survey. So they talked about protecting the student experience, avoiding deep cuts. They talked about wanting to see stewardship from the district, strong communication with the community about next steps and what's going on, and planning for the long-term financial stability of Parkway. So the first slide here is actually one that I don't have a whole lot of notes on for myself because it pretty much speaks for itself. People think a lot of the Parkway School District. They grade you highly. They feel like they get excellent value for the taxes that they're paying. And most importantly, especially in a situation where you're looking at an operating levy, they have high degree of confidence in the financial management of this district. We also like to find out what resonates highly with respondents on this survey. We have a whole series of about 10 of these questions. I've kind of picked out the top 3 here to go through with you, and you can kind of see the whole idea of pride and maintaining the status quo. But when I say maintaining the status quo, I don't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing for the district. It means that we have a wonderful district here. We want to make sure that it stays the same. But we see that 92% of people expect schools in their community to be better than those around them. So again, high pride, high sense of quality, high sense of standards. About the same amount really understand that the quality of their schools is the main thing that impacts their property values. And they also really understand the idea of pride, that schools can be a source of pride within their community. And that, again, is something that drives them to say, you know what, we need to maintain the quality of our Parkway schools. We wanted to ask people, try to find out what's important to them. So we gave them a long list of priorities to examine, and these are the top 5 that came out in that list. So safety and security, not a surprise. I mean, one of the top priorities in any survey you do with a school district. Schools will never be as safe as we can never make schools too safe with what the work that we're doing. But then in those next 3, you saw 88% felt that providing adequate health insurance for employees, and about the same amount as providing competitive teacher salaries was a high priority. 4 out of 5 felt like maintaining staffing, not laying off teachers. So getting to that idea of not doing any deeper cuts was a high priority. And about the same amount wanted to avoid deficit spending. And then again, going back to your idea that we saw stewardship was a priority in the community conversations, we see it kind of resonate here with the data as well. In the sense that we asked people what was important, we also wanted to find out what's not important. So we asked them a couple different questions. We asked kind of those positive kind of framed questions. We also asked some questions that maybe get at the other side to see how respondents actually answer those. And only about half of those that took the survey felt like that Parkway needed to make do with what they had. Again, protecting, maintaining that pride, continuing to allow the district to be what it has become today, and to grow forward. Less than that, only about a third of people felt like schools were just fine the way they are. So once people start to recognize that there is an issue here in Parkway, they don't feel like we should just stay where we are right now. And you know, our numbers kind of go down as we go through these 3 questions. Only 1 out of 5 felt it was convincing that okay, let me start over again. This is one of those opposite questions. Only 20% of the people were convinced that the district has cut more than $12 million from its budget, with the idea that additional cuts will impact teachers in classrooms. So you kind of have to read this one in reverse, right? So that means that 4 out of 5, or 80%, were not convinced by the idea that we need to make additional cuts. Other key things when we look through this summarized survey data that present as significant to us is the idea that tax resistance is low. So 48% of the people can't afford higher property taxes no matter how good the cause. Now you say that's half. We do this work a lot, and 45 to 50% is actually about an average number for that. So nobody really likes paying more taxes, right? So when we see it down there in that average range, we feel like that's a pretty stable number. More importantly, almost 3 out of 4 people are willing to pay more, willing to invest in Parkway schools. They're willing to make sure that Parkway schools, willing to pay more to make sure Parkway schools continue to be successful. The other interesting thing that we tested here is the idea of the Hancock Amendment and how it forces the district to roll back its tax levy throughout the over the course of the years. So 2 out of 3 people were like the idea that even with this proposed 40-cent increase, Parkway's tax rate will still be 84 cents lower than it was in 2016. So that's a lot of tidbits about just kind of perception of the district, statements about priorities, things that people might find convincing or supporting things. So then let's move on to kind of the question that we really want to talk a little bit more about is how did respondents feel about a potential 46-cent operating increase? So we talk a little bit about the methodology that we use when we ask these questions. So we have about a 35-question survey. The first 2 questions, so you saw back at the beginning, there was that question about grading Parkway. So there's a question about grading schools in Missouri, grading Parkway, and then we ask right away, the Parkway School District is considering a 46-cent operating increase. Is this something you would favor, oppose? We kind of give them the litany of choices there. And we do that intentionally because we want a cold read of people who are taking this survey. We don't want to give them the opportunity to even know. At that point, we haven't even told them that we're calling on behalf of the Parkway School District. So we want to find out where are they sitting without knowing anything else. So 52% favored the idea of a 46-cent tax increase on the initial ask, with about 16% of them strongly favoring. We asked a probe, we asked a follow-up to that, and talked about how the Hancock Amendment and other rollbacks have reduced the district's tax rate over the years. When we talk about how that has happened, total favor rises to 67%, about 2 out of 3 on a 46-cent proposed operating increase. So then we kind of go through the rest of the survey at that point. We ask those questions about priorities. We ask those questions that are statements about the district. We ask questions that allow people to react to statements about a possible proposal. And then we come back on a reconsideration question. And we ask again, how do you feel about this proposed 46-cent tax increase for Parkway? And the reason we do that is because even though we've been asking people questions the whole time, we've actually been educating them, right? We've read some statements, we've talked about priorities, we've put some ideas out there into the ether for them to consider and them to react to. So when we ask that reconsideration question, we see total favor settles in at 63%, with 30% strongly favor. So we've increased our overall favor from 52 to 63, and we've moved people into that strongly favor category. So that's that kind of real emotional, that is what's really driving me. I feel very strongly about this. So that's very positive movement over the course of that entire survey. And here's why. So by looking at that, looking into the crosstabs, so we understand that information, the information that we've presented in the middle of that survey, increases support. Again, I just mentioned the piece about strong support, doubling on reconsideration. And when we look at that, we're moving actually people out of oppose and into that supporting section because we had very small undecided don't know numbers on these, which is unusual, but that means that people feel that they have enough information to answer these questions. So the information within that survey moves people from that opposed side into that favor side. When we dig a little deeper into it also, it shows us what information people need to know in order to make an informed decision about the proposal. We look at our crosstabs and whatnot, and Elisa talked earlier about identifying information gaps in places where, we need to educate people on this. We found those same ones in the survey. I'll talk about them a little bit on the next slide. So again, gaps we verified in the survey data was just general awareness about Parkway's financial situation. It was the impact of Hancock and rollbacks on the tax rate and explaining what the tax rate would have been had we not had this. In other words, we might not be in this situation if we didn't have to follow state law. And just the general awareness of budget cuts to date. I mean, we saw very strongly in the community conversations that people were resistant to deeper cuts that might change what this school district is. We've verified that data in the quantitative data on the survey. So I think this has been a great opportunity and exercise for the district, to be doing these two processes simultaneously, to see very similar results in kind of the qualitative piece as well as the quantitative piece, I think presents really great data for the board to consider. And the last piece that I'd like to leave you guys with is just 4 questions. So when we sit with school boards at this point and help them think through the data that they have on their hands to make an informed decision, we always say that here's 4 questions that you need to consider, and we always recommend being able to answer yes to all 4 of these questions. So I won't read them to you, but I think that to think about this as what have you heard? What does the qualitative and quantitative data tell you about what your community thinks? We heard from Carrie, that we've done the analysis, you've done the math, you know what you need to do moving forward. You have that plan. You have to think about, do we have everyone rowing in the same direction on this? That's really important as you move forward and consider a campaign. And then most importantly, do you have the time to do this right? And that's a yes for both the district side as well as a side that you don't really have a lot of control over. Do you have a group of community volunteers that are kind of willing to come together and give their time and energy to the district as we move closer and closer to election day? So again, not questions we can all answer for you, but questions that I think are generally worth discussing and considering.
Okay, with that, we want to know if you all have any questions for us that we can answer for you. So,
Well, I'll start just by thanking you, Chris, and Carrie and Elisa, and everybody that's been involved with getting us to this point. I know back at the beginning of the year when we said, hey, go poll the community and ask some questions and see where we are, create these events. We had no idea that you would be able to do it at the level, and just getting so many people engaged across the district. So thank you very much for everything you've done thus far. I have one question. You talked about your scenario comparison, and option C was simply Sustains Parkway. But I'm trying to recall this correctly, but we're still, like this next school year, next fiscal year, we're still identifying additional cuts, right?
Correct, yes. So when we were talking about the sustainment and all of these solutions, these would potentially not be these wouldn't be impacted until the 27-28 school year. So the budget that you guys reviewed and approved tonight does not take into consideration anything that would happen with what we're talking about tonight. So we would really see the impacts of these potentially in the 27-28 school year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Do we know, this is on the topic of the senior tax freeze, if a levy is approved, their tax rate still goes up, correct? But is it still frozen then? At where will it still be frozen? Can we anticipate more revenue from them if a levy does get passed?
That is $1 million question. So I have what I assume what would happen, but I have not gotten confirmation that that is what has happened. When that question has been posed to the county as well as to some legal entities, no one has given us a clear answer. So I think I have an assumption of what it would be, but I can't speak with certainty that that is actual because I've not received confirmation about it either way.
Okay, all right, I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I really appreciate it, as I said before, I really appreciate all the effort that has gone into this. We've at different times in the past month or so, we've received snippets of this, but it's great to get it all in one succinct presentation, so thank you. I think at this point, in talking with board members, off and on through community conversations, I think we would like to have you prepare some type of potential resolution language that what we would consider presenting to the public on a ballot measure. And if you could bring that back to us at the next board meeting, then we can review that and move forward.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have no work session and no special meetings, so may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you all for attending.